Hello and welcome. Welcome, fellow stargazers and cosmic travelers, seekers of the higher light and the higher truth. It's Psychic Cynthia here, and I'm logging on with your cosmic forecast for the week ahead. And this is your Friday forecast for the week ahead, and that will be the week of November 2nd through November 8th. And by the way, happy Halloween, happy Samhain, happy Day of the Dead. Many blessings and much peace to the ancestors. However you celebrate this holiday of the newly dead and the ancestors, may it be a peaceful time for you in the weekend ahead. But for now, we'll be looking at our cosmic forecast for the week ahead. And the big news this week is Mercury going back direct. And that's actually happening on Tuesday, November 3rd. That's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. And by the way, this forecast is for the year 2020. I should have said that in the beginning. But you knew that already, right? Hopefully. And Mercury has been in retrograde for the last 3 weeks. Have you noticed? Have you noticed it's really been a time where the universe has been encouraging us to slow down, to go deeper, to complete and finish what we've started, to get inspired. And one of the ways the universe encourages us during Mercury retrograde to slow down, I feel, is that there's friction during this time. Whenever we try to push ahead too fast or do too much, we get a pushback that slows us down. So, have you been getting any of that pushback during the last few weeks? Have you been encountering a lot of obstacles that maybe have been telling you to slow down, take it easy, and go deeper instead of further? If so, that's fine, as long as you follow the guidance. Now, maybe a few of you haven't been getting that kind of pushback or friction. Maybe it's been more smooth sailing for you. And if so, that's fine as well. Generally speaking, even when it is smooth sailing for us personally during Mercury retrograde, there is friction in the outer world. Because one of the things about when Mercury is retrograde is it puts a strain on emotions. And it can make it more difficult for us. Well, I think it works like this. It actually puts a strain on our logic when Mercury is in retrograde. And so there seems to be more of a disconnect between the logical, rational side and the emotional side. And we need both, right? We need both to live happily and be productive and enjoy peace in our lives and creativity. So when the logic isn't flowing right and we become more emotional, and emotions are not a bad thing, but if they're not balanced with logic and integrated with logic, then they can get easily out of control and our fears can take over. And we do see a lot of this in the world right now, especially in the United States. And it's been really interesting to watch how people are getting really worked up over things that they have no control about and putting a lot of fear out there. And I won't say anything in specific, but let's just say some of it has to do with the election or how votes are being counted and things like that. And so anyway, I think what I'm saying is when Mercury goes in retrograde, it kind of blocks our logic for a little while, makes it harder to access logic and reason. And it amplifies whatever our emotional state is, which if you're coming from a balanced and centered emotional state, that can be quite productive and quite liberating to go deeper into that. But it brings up the shadows. It opens the doorway. So if whatever you're feeling inside will get amplified during Mercury retrograde, and especially with Mars retrograde and some of the other retrogrades, but especially that Mars retrograde. So there's a lot of amplification of the shadow side. There has been for the last 3 weeks. And your fears, your fears can take power over you. And they can stop you from acting resourcefully, let's just say. And a lot of times during Mercury retrograde, we're tempted to react rather than respond resourcefully to life and wisely. So, coming up on Tuesday, again, that's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, Mercury will be stationing direct. Listen to my words. I said stationing direct. It's technically not direct on the day that it stations. And I won't get into all the techno details here. If you want to know more about that, I will put a link in the video description to the more in-depth video I have about Mercury going back direct, just in general. And you can understand that, well, here, for today, when a planet goes direct, it doesn't just go direct overnight. These orbits can't just change instantaneously. So what it means when something stations, a planet stations, that means standstill. So when a planet stations direct, it's this moment of standstill. Apparently, I mean, it's not actually totally standing still. It's just the orbit gets very slow. And that's what happens when it stations. Actually, that's true if it stations direct or retrograde, when it stations. So Mercury is stationing direct. Everything is coming to a very slow motion, a standstill. It's a cosmic holding of the breath. And that, again, is on this next Tuesday, November 3rd. And even once Mercury stations direct, there is a time of regaining momentum and equilibrium that must happen, a time of resetting, of gaining the footing in the orbit of the planet itself and in our own inner worlds. So this is what we say, what we mean when we say Mercury is still in storm. And it will be in what is called the post-retrograde storm until this next Sunday, and that's Sunday, November 8th. What that means in practical terms is you should basically continue to act as if Mercury is still retrograde until Sunday, November 8th. You should, continue to proceed with caution and not rush into big major new deals. You should continue to check and double check all your work and your communications. You have to be more thorough. You have to go deep. And we have to be more organized, even though it's hard when Mercury is in retrograde or even in the post-retrograde storm. So things are not moving forward so smoothly yet, but it's the beginning. Now, during this time, especially this week, from the time when Mercury stations direct on Tuesday, November 3rd, to the time it leaves the post-retrograde storm on Sunday, November 8th, this is to be a time of very deep pause and realignment. If you want to be a true cosmic traveler, a true cosmic aligner with the energies, if you want to go with the flow and best harmonize with the universal flow, then you'll want to settle yourself down a bit in this week and just wait before jumping ahead with anything new. Now more than ever, more so than even during the retrograde, because at least when it was retrograde, it was flowing at a certain speed, a certain rate, yes, slow, but now it's almost slowed down to a standstill. So it's not a good time to really push ahead in the outer world with anything new. Now you can work quietly behind the scenes, making plans, especially after Mercury stations direct on Tuesday, and especially after Sunday. So again, those dates are November 2nd through November 8th. And if you really want to align with those universal energies, then consider that Mercury does not leave its post-retrograde shadow. This is a different concept here. So in other words, it doesn't return back to where it was when it started in the retrograde. That doesn't happen until much later. In fact, I think that is around November 18th. I should probably check my notes for you on that. November 19th. But I think it is safe to say that you can begin resuming with forward motion with greater ease and less effort from Sunday, November 8th onward. And again, this is the year 2020 we're speaking of. But for now, if you can, give yourself some time to focus on really pausing deeply, maybe just resting, because you know what's going to happen once Mercury leaves that post-retrograde storm, and especially after it leaves the shadow on November 19th. It's going to start getting really, really busy for you. And all of a sudden, all the stuff that was put on hold during the last 3 to 6 weeks is going to come rushing to the forefront, and the energy is going to start moving again in a ferocious way. And if you're not replenished, if you're not grounded, if you don't have those deep, deep roots, your branches are going to shake when all that energy comes rushing out at you. So if you think there's a lot of energy now, you just wait. You just wait. So dear ones, do take the time to go deep and get grounded. What is it that grounds you? I mean, for me, it is being out in nature, which is why I film in nature whenever I can. For me, it is working with the herbs and the plants and gardening and actually making my own healing essences and herbal teas. Cooking, I love these things. Being with friends that are nurturing. Playing with, my animal friends, making sure they're looked after and cared for. What is it for you? What grounds you? What makes you really feel connected to your deepest roots? And of course, at this time of year, it's not just any ordinary Mercury retrograde. At this time of the year, with Mercury turning back direct right around the Day of the Dead and close to Samhain, and we have a full moon on the day of Samhain, Halloween. It's almost as if the universe is lining it up to tell us to remember our ancestors. So many people right now are obsessing about politics and the election, but are you remembering your ancestors? Are you connecting with the old spiritual ways, the truths, the ancient ways? How is your alignment? How is your grounding? Mercury is in the late degrees of Libra, so this tells us a rebalancing is needed. And the Sun is in Scorpio, so a reckoning is needed. Balance your karma, balance your checkbook, balance your diet. Where are you out of control in your life and lacking in discipline, and you need to move it back in? You see, this is why Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra. Saturn, the planet of discipline, the taskmaster, the planet of supreme organization of large-scale efforts. It's exalted. It shines its light the highest in the sign of Libra. Libra, the scales. So let's all do our best to balance ourselves out, to balance our karma, to repay our debts, to forgive, to release and let go, and to free ourselves so that the season ahead, the season of growth after Mercury retrograde is completely done, after it is out of its shadow, so that this can be a most splendid season for us all. In this realm, and in the spiritual and cosmic realms as well. I leave you with that, and until next time, bright blessings to you all.